Hello, guys. Hello. So, today I wanted to talk about a few things. Specifically, first topic, workplace safety. We are in a day and time where, not only psychological safety, but someone's physical safety is extremely important. So, as employers are thinking about bringing their employees back into the workspace because people are starting in person work, most people are starting in person work again, or some hybrid model, right? Where they're doing, partially virtual and partially in person. However, with all of the things that are happening in the world, right? Everyone does not handle trauma or emotion in the same fashion that someone else does, right? And we can never tell how someone will be impacted or affected by psychological trauma or by, things that we're seeing happening across the world on the news, whether it's, a hurricane or whether it's the loss of a family member or whether it's, war or travesty or whatever it may be. We really don't know what someone is going through. And sometimes that's really hard to gauge. That's why it's very important for, employers to be given management training so that they can understand not only management aspect of looking after an employee, but also the kind of personable and the emotional and the psychological aspect of looking after employees to make sure that your team is not only psychologically safe, but also physically safe. So we should be thinking about emergency preparedness plans. We should be thinking about, having these practices the same way you do a fire drill, right? So when someone is in danger or in trauma or when there's an active shooter situation, there should be procedures and things in place that people know exactly what to do when these things happen. It's sad, unfortunately, that we have to think about these things, but this is the world that we live in. So we want to keep people safe, right? And we want to mitigate risk as much as we can. So we absolutely should be thinking about how we do these things. Now, with that also comes the need for thinking about offering benefits to your employees. Now, I know some people get really, kind of taken aback because it's expensive and we can't afford it, etc., right? So you feel like there are trade-offs because you want to offer a higher wage and then you don't offer, the benefit behind having a higher wage. Now, I also want you to consider that when you achieve 50 employees, God bless you, because that's awesome, right? To even get to that point where you have at least 50 employees. But there are some federal and state laws and things like that, some requirements where there are some benefits that you absolutely have to offer when you think about FMLA and things like that. That's why it's important to have the right HR, the right kind of people in place that can give you that information, that can help you, that can advise you. Because while you think that you're reading something and it's simple, it may not be. There's a little more complexity to it. You always want to make sure that you are ethically staying within the law. You want to make sure that you're safe, protecting your organizations, but you also want to protect the people that work for you. So, at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you are covered with all of these things. So when you think about benefits like EPAs, for example, are a great thing to have, even if you can't offer, let's say, healthcare or things like that. Think about getting an EPA. Think about getting something, as small as a dental plan, because dental, insurance or dental things are very expensive. But when you have dental insurance, it offsets that, and the cost of that is not, extremely high. But you can do small things, that will kind of help put things in place until you can work up to the point where you can offer more. Now, I've talked before about PEOs, and they can be very helpful with this, and they can take a lot of this off your plate. And believe it or not, even when you're a very small organization, these sorts of organizations or companies, they can help find you the best possible option. So I really would reach out and try to have, some conversation around what the cost would be for that, right? Then you also want to pay attention and be very sensitive to when people are losing family members. I mean, people are still catching COVID and things like that, right? Or, we have, people that have elderly parents that have passed away. How people get affected by that trauma is going to affect their everyday. It's going to affect their work. It's going to affect the things they do, right? So we want to be very sensitive to that. And I hope that you all are offering these bereavement days so that people can kind of take time to grieve before they jump right back into work. That's always a good option and a good thing to have. So definitely look into the possibility of benefits. It's really not going to cost you as much as it is as you think it may, or at least offer some simple options. Now, number 2, very sensitive topic. It's something that came up that I wanted to address today, grooming. Now, A lot of times, we've come into the space where employee grooming it's a thing. It's important, right? Everybody wants to be in a space where, the atmosphere smells good, and you want to be sensitive of someone's kind of religious beliefs and whatever else you may tap into. There's some cultural differences when we think about hair care, when we think about the appearance of hair, etc. So I'm going to say this. I'm going to put the onus on the employee, right? You know good and well when you roll out of bed in the morning when you're looking your best. You know if you are groomed well for the appearance of going to work or being in a professional environment, right? And it really depends on where you are. So my suggestion to employers, first of all, my suggestion to employees would be to take accountability, right, for your appearance and do the best you can, right? Make sure that you are, looking your best. Make sure that you are, refreshed your best so that you aren't causing problems with the other employees, and that you are presenting your best self when you're going into work, right? When we're talking about employees, because a lot of you now are even scared to mention it or say anything because you don't want to be sued. You think that it's a violation. It turns into racism and so many other things, right? When you create these, employee handbooks, put a section in there for grooming, right? It's okay. Let's, kind of take some considerations culturally to things that are acceptable and things that you may not think are acceptable. And this is not based on your opinion. This is based on, just kind of standards, right? With things that may not and may be acceptable for your professional space, right? If you are in a warehouse, then maybe some things are different than when you are in a corporate office, right? So you have to think about that and talk through that and pass it through your attorneys, legal, etc., to make sure that you are covering yourself. Now, if you are thinking about how you have these conversations, my recommendation would be, make sure that you're giving out with your employee handbook, the expectations, the dress code, the grooming, etc., so that people know up front about these things. And when you're hiring new employees, keep in mind, these people have not had jobs for a very long time. Think about that. You've been somewhere, you haven't had a job for a very long time, so you don't have money. It costs money to get your hair cut. It costs money to buy soap and deodorant and things like that. So my suggestion would be give some leeway, until after that first paycheck, a week after that first paycheck, before you want to address it or before you want to say anything, so this way it's not such a sensitive thing, or you're not, delving into a realm that you don't want to because you're hurting somebody's feelings, because technically they didn't have a job and they're excited about being there in the space, and then they'll be able to afford the things that they need. So I would suggest, waiting a little while until after that kind of first pay cycle, a little bit after that. And then if you're still seeing a problem, then maybe you mention it, right? If you want to do that softly, then what you can do is offer a quick reference guide to your new hires, right? That you give them after the first pay cycle, or 3 weeks in, or whatever it may be, that gives you, again, reiteration of just company policies, reiteration of how they find things in the company, whether it be, how do I, find benefits, or who do I call for this. Add in the dress code, add in the grooming thing, right? To make sure that people have this information. Then it will prompt them, because maybe they look at themselves like, oh wow, maybe, this is me and I need to do something different. It's a very sensitive topic. I know it's hard to address. It's a hard conversation to have, but those are kind of some soft deliveries and ways that you can talk about it. Anywho, I hope that this was helpful, and hopefully, you will enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.